Alright, so let's go and take a look at the third problem here. You'll notice that on the review it jumps from number 1 to number 3. The reason being is that number 3 is an order of operations problem, and what number 2 does is that it shows you someone else's work and then it asks you to pick out the mistake they made. So it's kind of the same question, so that's why we're just doing number 3 here. Alright, so order of operations. What this is akin to, or what this is similar to, is that if you think about why we all decided to drive on the right side of the road, if we just told people, do whatever you want, then obviously that would be chaos and all kinds of car wrecks if some are driving on the left and some are driving on the right. So to avoid all that chaos, we all kind of have decided as a society, okay, we're going to all drive on the right side of the road. Obviously different countries across the world have made a different decision, but the idea is that we all decided to do it the same way. And that's kind of what order of operations is with math, is that if you looked at this, and if I just decided, maybe I'll divide first, do some subtraction, maybe add, right? If you just picked whatever order you wanted to, we'd all get different answers. So just like the traffic analogy, it would be kind of a math wreck or math chaos here. So we actually have a certain way that we do things. And that's what the order of operations is. So the P says parentheses, so we do parentheses first. And you'll notice that you'll see parentheses in the middle, and then you may see something else that maybe doesn't look as familiar, is these kind of, right, these little brackets. Well, that's just another way of saying parentheses, right? So they're grouping symbols. A bracket's a grouping symbol, parentheses is another grouping symbol. So we're going to treat those as parentheses. And so when you have parentheses, we work inside out, right? So that's the first part thing here. We're going to work inside out. So we're going to start with this inner set of parentheses, and then we're going to work out. Well, what I do is I kind of treat this as a game where I make one move per turn. I don't want to try to do too much of this mentally and then end up making a mistake. So what I'd want to do is that I'd want to go through here and just maybe do kind of one thing at a time here. Inside the parentheses, we follow the order of operations. So next would be exponents. So what I have next for exponents would be 4 squared, right, which would be 16. So that was the first thing that I would do there. And that does not say 4 times 2, right? That's not 8. 4 squared means 4 times 4, which would be 16. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the rest of what's there. So I'm just making my one move per turn, and then I'm just going to copy everything else. Now I'm still working inside this parentheses, so now I got to decide, well, am I going to add these two first, or am I going to divide? Well, division, M and D, becomes before addition and subtraction. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to divide these two numbers first. 12 divided by 6. So that's going to be my move for this turn. So 16. 12 divided by 6 would be 2. And close off the parentheses. Alright, so I'm almost done with this inside of the parentheses. Now the only thing that's left to be done there is just to add those two things together. So that's what I'm going to do in my next turn, is I'm going to add 16 and 2 together. So again, copying everything else down that I have here, except now in parentheses 16 plus 2, which would be 18, divided by 2, and then added 11. Alright, so now that we're inside these things, these brackets, it's like I said, we treat them almost like they're parentheses. Like if you wanted to think of that as a parentheses, that's really kind of what it is. So now I need to decide, am I going to do 2 minus 18, or am I going to do 18 divided by 2? Well, again, we're going to do division first, so I'm going to do those two. So what I need to do then is I'm going to take 18 divided by 2. So again, rewriting. So 2 minus, now 18 divided by 2, 2 goes into 18 9 times. So I would have 9. And then we're almost there. So 2 minus 9, I'm still working inside the parentheses. 2 minus 9 would be a negative 7. I have more negatives, right? So different sign subtract. 9 minus 2 is 7. Keep the sign of the bigger, so I have more negative, so that would be a negative 7. And then plus 11. And then what I have to decide is, well, what do I do next now? So the brackets, like we said, they're like parentheses. So when you think parentheses, you think multiplication. So that would be a negative 4 times a negative 7, which would give you a positive 28. And we're just going to scroll down here a little bit. So multiplying those two things together, you'd get a positive 28. And then 28 plus 11 would give you 39. Okay. So I know that looked like a lot to write all of that. Certainly you could have done, combined some of these steps and done them mentally. I would caution you against that, because the more you do that, then the more likely it is, or easier it is, to make a mistake. But doing that, writing it out that way, I think is a way to prevent those mistakes. All right, so go and try 3-2 and 3-3, and when you come back, we'll check the answers. Okay, so let's check 3-2, should have got 51. And then for 3.3 on the right side, should have got 4. And again, you really want to make sure that you're doing these first before you check the answer, right? You're really not doing yourself any good if you're not checking the answers there first. Right. All right, so that is the end of number 3.